Chaim ran out of time in Boston. Let's talk about it, Will. First pitch is next, guys. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 48 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pite, and with me, as always, the four-seam fastball co-host, Will Sism. Will, happy Saturday, my man. How you doing?
Happy Saturday. There's a crisp coolness in the air.
There is.
I smell playoffs right around the corner. Man, we're almost there, but I tell you what, looking at the topics for today, this is going to be a really fun show, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to chop up this outline. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There was just too many things that happened during the week. We couldn't pare it down. Usually we have 3, maybe 2, depending on the other segments. The meat of this show is gonna be on the grill. So I'm really looking forward to it. Just bending Will's ear on this stuff. But we are gonna lead this puppy off with some breaking news. Shohei Ohtani is out for the rest of 2023. The two-way superstar was placed on the 10-day injured list today with oblique injury. I think we knew this was going to happen. He was in the lineup on Monday in Seattle and then got scratched. And then at that point, I was kind of like, this might be curtains for the year. I think he hurt it during batting practice on the 4th of September, and he hasn't been in the lineup since. Takeaways, Will, he cleaned out his locker. What do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like what you said. You just kind of felt like this was coming. It was inevitable once you initially heard about the elbow, right? And then, now that the oblique's starting to bark, you just knew that they were going to have to shut him down. So it stinks, just the mere fact of just being a fan of the game, that you feel like you kind of get robbed a little bit these past few weeks, and you kind of wish it's like, well, I wonder how many home runs he would have hit, So anyways, what's kind of crazy though is it just feels like the end of a era in Anaheim, or LA, I should say, I guess, that Angels franchise. And I don't know, man. I mean, we're going to talk about another superstar here in just a little bit, but for LA, but I don't know. It just feels like a total turning of the page in the Angels franchise right now, not for the better. And like I said, my big takeaway of this, though, is just as a fan, it stinks to have maybe the face of baseball just out right now, and kind of future's a little bit cloudy with free agency and the injuries, but it'll work out for Shohei, but I'm not so sure about the Angels franchise.
That's a pretty solid call there, Will. Yeah, dude, everything you said, it kind of stings just for fans, like you mentioned, but I don't know, dude. Stuck at 44, I was pretty confident he would hit 50 if he stayed healthy. I don't think that was a stretch. Is he the American League MVP?
That's a good question. I mean, he's the best player.
Yeah.
The problem is people are going to be able to kind of use one of two arguments. They're going to be able to say, well, the Angels aren't anywhere close to playoff contention, and he didn't finish the year because he was hurt. So, I don't know if you pivot to, whoever you want to name, as far as the MVP goes.
That's the thing, dude. No one's grabbing it. I've literally read Corey Seager for Texas had a good year, but he's also missed.
He's
time.
also been hurt, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, as crazy as it sounds, Ohtani still might win it just because he was so far ahead of everybody else, And it's like you said, it's not like the National League to where you've got, 3 or 4 legit candidates. So, I don't know. As of today, I feel like Ohtani still might win it. But if someone these past 2 or next 2 weeks really steps up and goes crazy and maybe leads their team into a, the division title or, a certain seed. I like what you said about Corey Seager. He's the one that feels kind of like maybe the guy who could maybe unseat him, Ohtani. So we'll see. But I think it's still Ohtani's to lose as of right now.
Yeah. I went to the Vegas sports books just to see kind of where they're leaning. Where's the money at? Minus 8,000 on Ohtani. So
Yeah.
a lot of people like him. And then Seager, J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez.
That's
at
a
the
good
3
one.
spot. Yeah, he's had a well of a second half for sure. King Tucker, Kyle Tucker at 4, and then Marcus Simeon at 5. So,
Okay.
well, let's see, plus 20,000. That's a lot of zeros. That is a lot of zeros. So it's a stretch. That is a stretch, but it could be done. It's going to be interesting. It's sad, like you said. We got to put this season to bed for Shohei. And man, we have all off season to talk about where this guy's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely gnarly, dude. Here's where we're going to go. We're going to hit the standings. And where do we stand, everybody? Let's talk about it, man, because the AL East, you go to sleep, you wake up, and there's 2 teams with a share of the first place seed. Baltimore Orioles at 91 and 56. They are tied with your Tampa Bay Rays, 92 and 57. They are playing Game 3 of a 4-game set currently. I believe Baltimore's still up 4-0. That's okay. We've got a long episode, and we're going to watch it, and they're going to turn it around. Okay, comeback Rays season. 10 games back of the Rays and the Orioles is Toronto. Then you have the Yankees have hopped over my Red Sox for 4th place. Yeah, it's pretty tough. We're going to talk Sox later. But Yankees, Red Sox both eliminated for playoff contention. Good stuff. Speaking of being eliminated from playoff contention, let's talk about the Central Division. And the Minnesota Twins, 78 and 70. They are 8 games up on the Cleveland Guardians. Everybody quit in this division, it feels like to me, Will. I don't know. Detroit, the White Sox, Kansas City. That's how we've done it for the last
Feels like all year, honestly.
all year. I would, you know what? I would love to know that little graph that kind of shows
Yes.
where the team started and ended, because at some point, this is where we've lived. It's pretty wild, man. Your Kansas City Royals, 101 losses. How
Lord.
about that? Look out, though. Oakland's got 102. So something to watch.
This is a heck of a race right here. We're gonna have to keep track of this race the last 2 weeks.
There's no doubt. You know how the bottom of the West looks. Let's talk about the top. Houston Astros, 83 and 65, a half game up on Texas, who remembered how to play baseball. They
Yes.
relearned. They retaught themselves. That's excellent. 82 and 65, Seattle, 81 and 66, hanging in there. They're a game and a half out. And then you have the Angels, who we just kind of spoke about. Let's hit the wild card real quick, Will. As the computer loads, we go to Tampa Bay, 10 games up. Boy, they're in, aren't they?
Yep.
Tampa Bay, yeah, because they're kind of tied with Baltimore right now. Yeah, and then you got Texas. They're 1 game up in the 2nd spot, and then Seattle and Toronto are tied at the 3 and 4 spot. After that, you go Yankees. So essentially, it is Toronto, Seattle, Texas for 2 spots. What are your thoughts on the American League?
It's kind of wild, man. It is the wild, wild west for sure again. Man, I tell you what, my biggest takeaways, well, first of all, let's just state the obvious. So Baltimore, Tampa Bay, they're in, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who's going to be the AL East champion and who's going to be the number 1 wild card team, right? It's between those 2 teams interchangeably. Now, from there, here's the biggest things that are going on. Toronto, I don't know what is going on in Toronto.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, they're about to play themselves out of even a playoff spot. Like they've just looked inept over the past week or two. The offense has totally disappeared, and I don't understand it. Kevin Gossman has not looked like himself the past couple of starts, and he's been probably their best player. Honestly, him and Bo Bichette have been their best 2 players all year.
That's true.
And man, I tell you what, man, we said this before, and we'll leave this for another day. But if Toronto misses the playoffs, we're going to have some serious conversations about it, because there's no way that team should miss the playoffs.
No.
But they're in a dogfight right now, and they are not heading in the right direction. You mentioned the Twins are in by default in the Central, so they're going to get one of the playoff spots.
Yep.
And then out west, it's crazy. And let's not – I mean, I know they should be in, but let's just not assume because this season has taught us anything, let's not assume anything.
That's right.
Houston is not like locked in yet.
No.
Right? So even though I would still say that they're the favorites to somehow win this division and out west, they're not totally safe yet.
Right.
If they go on a slide the last week or two of the season. So anyways, you mentioned go ahead.
I was doing some schedule watching on Houston a little bit earlier. They have their last 6 games, 3 of them are with Seattle. So that series could be pretty big. Exactly. What were you going to say? I felt like you were heading that direction.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you mentioned it. Texas was on that crazy slide for the previous 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden they're playing great baseball again, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, they went through Toronto. I mean, they just switched them 1 for 1.
Yes, they blew Toronto away.
Yeah.
And then Seattle's kind of been hit or miss this past week or two too. So, man, I think we're all trying to just figure out where all these balls are going to land at the end of the day.
That's right.
I feel like, this is just my gut telling me this, I feel like the best teams are out west. I'm just talking about wild card teams. Tampa's in or Baltimore. But I think the rest of them, I think Texas and Seattle are both better than Toronto.
Yeah.
Assuming Houston wins the division. That's just kind of the way I see it. And Toronto may somehow, some way sneak in over one of those, either one of those West teams. But I would honestly like to see 3 teams out West get in.
Yeah. On paper, I disagree with you, man. The Jays should be better, but the way they played all year, you're not wrong. You're 100% correct. Hey, real quick before we move on to that National League, Will, the Minnesota Twins. You know, we talked about Toronto. They're 82 and 67. Minnesota, 4 games worse. So it's all about location, baby. You know what I mean?
Location.
That's absolutely wild. What are we talking about here? Let's go to the National League East. And the first team to not only clinch a playoff spot, but to win their division, the Atlanta Braves did it again for the 6th year in a row, 96 and 52. And then you got the Phillies, 80 and 67. They're 15 and a half games back. Kind of feel like we skipped this division since it's all, kind of nip and tuck. It's all ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's see. You got Miami, New York, and Washington. Let's move on to the Central. 83 wins, 64 losses, 5.5 games up on the Cubs. They've created some space. And then a game and a half behind them, you got the Cincinnati Reds, 77 and 72. And then Pittsburgh and St. Louis holding down the bottom there. In the West, you have your Dodgers, who I believe their magic number is 2 at 89 and 57. They are 13 and a half games up on the Diamondbacks, 77 and 72. Game and a half up on San Francisco Giants, 75 and 73. And then San Diego and the Rockies, good times, a roll at Coors, just maybe not great baseball. Let's hit the wild card. There are 5 teams under or above the line because we have 3 teams that are tied. So let's talk about it. The Phillies, they seem like they're miles and miles away. They're 4 games up in that number 1 spot. The Cubs are a game and a half up on the 3 teams that are tied in Arizona, the Reds, and Miami. Everybody's 77 and 72. You're 77 and 72. I'm 77 and 72. Game and a half back of that trio are the Giants at 75 and 73, and that's kind of what we're looking at. So we have essentially 4 teams, 2 spots. What do you think, man?
All right, so remember how I was making fun of Milwaukee earlier this year for getting swept by the A's?
Oh, I never forget it.
So I'm almost there with the Giants because they almost got no hit by the Rockies in Coors Field.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much of an indictment on an offense in Major League Baseball you can get.
Yeah.
But that's it right there. If you almost get no hit by the Rockies in Coors Field, I don't really have words for it. So because of that, I'm almost ready to eliminate the Giants.
Yeah.
And guess what? What makes it even worse? They were getting no hit through, I think, 8 innings.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 1-0 lead somehow, even though they're getting no hit.
Oh, yes, I saw this. Yeah.
Then they take the lead, so Colorado ties it at 1-1.
Uh-huh.
San Francisco scores in the 9th inning to make it 2-1. Camilo Duvall comes in, one of the best closers in baseball, comes in, blows the save, and Colorado wins 3-2. And I'm like, okay, Giants, you're eliminated.
That's right. Yeah, we're done.
So I'm done with the Giants after that. So getting back on track though, I here's the thing. I still think Philadelphia is in because it just feels like the rest of these wild card teams are all playing like 500 baseball. It's like they're winning one, they're losing one, winning one. And I think Philadelphia, they've got enough of a cushion to where they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of them, dude, who knows?
I know.
I mean, like honestly, who knows? I really want Miami to get in. I don't really have a great reason why. I just would like to see Miami get in.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're kind of a fun team for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And man, between the Cubs, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, and if you want to throw the Giants in there, I don't know. Flip a coin.
Yeah.
I really don't. I can't separate any of those teams from each other right now.
Yeah. Does anybody stand a chance against the Dodgers? You know what
or
I mean?
the Braves.
Or the Braves.
No.
No.
Just Phillies.
No. Yep. I think the last wild card would play Milwaukee in the first round, and I think I'd take Milwaukee over any of those teams.
But they've got a shot.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I don't know, man. The National League, we were kind of texting back and forth this morning. American League, I feel like there's a lot of different avenues we could go with, maybe not who's getting in. And maybe that's a different topic for a different day. I feel like we've really carved it down to, we have the expanded playoffs, but we're down to like 6 teams in each league.
Yep.
I feel like the National League is just a lot more top heavy. And, you obviously got 1A and 1B and the Braves and the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe many tiers below, but still many tiers above the third tier, you have in that second tier Milwaukee and Philly, and then you have everybody else. And so we'll see what happens, man. Who's ESPN going to do a 30 for 30 on? That's kind of where I'm landing.
And I'm with you. And obviously we'll talk a lot about this once the playoffs get here, but
yeah,
I think as of today, and this is kind of what we were texting about earlier, I really think that I could make a strong argument for anybody in the American League that gets into the playoffs. I could make an argument for them to represent the AL in the World Series.
Yeah. And then you get to the National League, and it's just like
I could make maybe 3 teams an argument.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And one of them's a really easy argument.
Yes, one of them is very easy, yes.
Oh, my gosh. I wonder what Vegas thinks their odds are to win the World Series.
Pretty good.
Got to be good. Hey, speaking of players that are super good, man, we're going to hit heat check here, man. Let's see. There's the sizzle. Well, he's got a delayed load for whatever reason on this application here, Riverside. So I apologize for that, team. Will, tell me about your heat check player of the week.
Man, this guy has just been money in the bank, man. Corey Seager. I swear, every time I watch the Rangers or look at box scores, Corey Seager's getting like 2 or 3 hits a night.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unbelievable. He's been one of the major reasons why Texas has been as good as they have been all year. And we thought Texas was like the sinking ship a week ago, but they've figured it out again. And Corey Seager's batting basically 500 this week, with a couple of home runs, 6 doubles.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second. 6 doubles in a week.
That's wild.
And 9 runs scored. So he was a pretty easy choice for me this week for my player of the week.
Dude, I'll be honest. I knew he was hitting the cover off the ball. I did not know his statistics look like this. He's only played 104 games, so
Yep.
he's missed upwards of 35, 40 games.
Mm-hmm.
Averaged 344, 31 home runs, 92 RBIs, 83 runs scored, and a couple of stolen bases. Dude, if he finishes as strong as he's playing right now, he might win the MVP. He's had seasons like this. He had seasons like this early in his career in L.A., but then the power kind of ticked up and the average went down. He has put it all together. And, man, if he didn't miss time, I mean, he'd be looking at 40, right? He's been awesome.
Quick question. Where does this put him fantasy-wise going into 2024? I mean, is this just your classic, just everything falls right, absolute peak Corey Seager? We hype him up all offseason, and then he kind of not necessarily has a bad season next year, but like he's not – people draft him thinking that he's going to do this again when it might not be very realistic. So where are we with Seager?
That's a great question. And the thing about it is, okay, so he's going into his 30-year-old season.
Yep.
Shortstop is still going to be pretty saturated.
Yep.
I mean, we had some guys have some down years, but you're still looking at a situation where you have like a Bogarts and a Bichette, and who is typically taken. Bichette is taken before. He's usually SS1. So I don't know, dude.
Gunnar Henderson
is going to,
he's going to skyrocket draft boards.
Exactly. Especially, will he have, dumb question, Will? I don't have any stocks in him.
Yep.
Will he have third base eligibility next year?
That's a good question. I was actually thinking about that today, and I can't remember if I feel like they started him a few times throughout the year at third.
But he's been holding down short.
I think he will. I know recently, though, he's been pretty much exclusively their shortstop. But I want to think that he will have third base eligibility. But regardless, even if he doesn't, he is going to be a huge riser going into 2024. Big
time. Hey, pulled it up. 76 starts at third base, 72 at shortstop. So he's got it.
Yeah.
He's got it.
So anyways, going back to Seager, though, I mean, the thing for me is it's tough, but we've got to, stick with the facts here. He has been sort of injury prone.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Like, you can't just sweep that under the rug, and like what you said, he's going to be going into age 30 season. So you have to, especially with early round picks, you have to take in all of this, these variables, risk reward type things. And so, I don't know. He feels to me like he should be somewhere, give or take, third, fourth round.
Yeah, I would
That's
say
just me.
Third or fourth shortstop off the board as well.
Yeah.
Wherever that falls. But you're right, dude. And we'll talk about this. We talked about it last offseason. We'll talk about it this offseason. But it'll definitely be a card that you play with your team in mind and how you're building your team. You don't want too many injury-prone guys out there. But he's so good. I mean, he's had an incredible year. So I don't know.
Shout out to him.
Yep, he's awesome. My guy, also having a standout year, Matt Olson. He's on a tear, had 3 home runs in 2 games, and in the process tied the Braves single-season record at 51 home runs. He and Ohtani were going back and forth at like 41, 42, 43, 44, and then this man just took off. So I'll ask you the same question you asked me. I almost said Freddie Freeman. Is Matt Olson first baseman number 1, or is it Mr. Freddie Freeman? What you thinking?
I think it's, what's crazy is it's not a crazy question.
Right.
I still think Freddie Freeman is the best. I think he's still pretty clearly the best overall first baseman, just because, I don't know, exactly what you're getting.
This is true. Yeah.
He does it every year. And so you're getting somebody who's going to hit over 300. You're getting somebody who's going to hit 20, 30 home runs, drive in 100 runs, score 100 runs. And heck, he steals 20 bases now somehow, some way. Matt Olson, as good as he's been, the average just isn't. He's never. I mean, I hate to say never, but he's just not going to be a 300 hitter. As good as he is, and he is great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but he's just not a 300 hitter.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going heavy power, sure.
Yeah.
Have at it, But I'm not passing up Freddie Freeman for him. I know that.
Dude, it would be tough, man. After the year he's had, you're going to see it across your leagues. I
believe it.
I don't think it's just going to be straight Freddie, but you're right, dude. You're right.
Hey, y'all take Matt Olson. I'll just sit back and wait on Freddie to drop to me. Y'all take Matt Olson.
What we said about Goldie last year, and we meant it. We meant it just as much now too, as well.
Yep.
That's awesome. Hey, man, we're hitting all the stars this episode. Let's hit what's on the grill with Will, and we're just going to start, I think, chronologically at this crazy baseball week, guys. The Angels came out and said, this was like Sunday or Monday, we're going to be willing to trade Mike Trout if he wants to go. He's got 7 years and $248 million left on that 12-year, $430 contract he signed in 2019. He spent his entire 13-year career with the Angels. He has no trade rights, the 10-5 rights. So if you've played in the league for 10 years and been with the same team for 5 years, you automatically have a no trade clause. So it's totally going to have to be him driven. It's going to be interesting to see how teams go about making a deal. You have to imagine the Angels are going to eat some salary. Dude, who are we watching in L.A. next year if Ohtani and Trout leaves? And where do you think Mike Trout's going? Anthony Rendon. That's who we're going to be watching.
God. So are the Angels for the next couple of years going to be kind of like the Royals and the A's this year? I mean, this feels like where we're heading.
They're going to be kind of like the Nashville Sounds. They get rid of Mike Trout.
Right. Man, here's the thing, though. I think it sounds crazy, but I think it's actually one of the best things that's come out of that franchise in a couple of months. Like, I think this is, like, the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. Think about what Mike Trout has meant to that franchise for the last decade. Even though they haven't had the success, in the playoffs or anything, like think about like what Mike Trout has actually meant to that franchise. He's one of the greatest players of this generation, and he's kept this franchise until Ohtani got there on the map, honestly. Yep. So I think it's the right thing to do just because if a guy means this much to your franchise and you understand what he's meant to it, and let's face it, Mike Trout feels like he's entering the twilight of his career. He's getting a lot of injuries. Yeah. He's not old, don't get me wrong.
32.
But the injuries are really starting to pile up for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so I think it's honestly the right thing to do if he wants to try and get on with another team somewhere to where he can potentially have a better shot of, playing in the postseason. I think it's the right thing to do. And if you're the Angels, you have one of the worst farm systems in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
You're probably losing Ohtani this offseason. Like, where do you go from here? It's a total rebuild, in my opinion.
Yep.
And so, unfortunately, you're probably not going to get what you could have gotten. As far as prospects go, a couple of years ago, if you traded Trout, I'm not saying they should have, but it is what it is at this point.
Correct.
But again, I just think it's the right thing to do for all parties involved. Angels are going to go into total rebuild mode. Trout's going to go somewhere, hopefully to a contender, to where we can actually see him play, hopefully close to his prime in the postseason. You asked me about the team. I think it's New York Yankees, man. I do. As much as I don't want to see that, I think because Trout's a New Jersey guy. He goes to Phillies games. Don't rule out Philadelphia. Yeah. I think it'll be somewhere in the Northeast.
Well, I don't like that. I'm going to be honest. I don't like that. I mean, let's see what's go to Fenway. Then I would love it.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Dude,
Not that Northeast team.
We don't. No, that's too far Northeast. No, here's the deal. I mean, if I said, hey, Will, what are the top 2 injuries that would concern you for a hitter? You'd probably say wrists.
And back.
And you'd say back. And he's dealing with the wrist, and he's got the chronic back thing.
Yep.
So, it's like a double-edged sword. If you bring this guy in, he's like the face of your team. But, we just talked about it with Seager. These injuries, like, can this guy go 160 games, or even, in today's baseball, can he play 140 games? I don't
it's a
think
stretch.
so. I don't think so. And I mean, part of the grab for him was he was the Gold Glove outfielder. Are you looking at?
I think you'd have to DH him more often than not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not as bad as Stanton. And that's why I don't think he'd go to New York, is because this is like a younger Stanton. I mean, like, he's just a shell of himself in NYC right now, and it's kind of a bummer because he was a lot of he hit the ball further than anybody other than Bonds that I've ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. Part of me thinks that he'll just want to kind of do his thing in L.A. and kind of live his life and collect that cash. Part of me thinks, I mean, did anybody see how excited he looked during the World Baseball Classic? This guy wants to go compete, and he can bring something to a team.
That's what I really think is going to win out. You can't tell me, because here's the thing. He's won all the individual stuff. His individual legacy is pretty much cemented.
Mm-hmm.
All that Mike Trout has left to prove is, let's see it in the postseason. And so I think, I don't know. I could be wrong. He could stay in L.A. and retire there. He could very well.
Yeah.
I just, with the direction the Angels are heading, I don't see it.
I think if I had to put money on it, and somebody told me he's definitely not staying with the Angels, I'd go Phillies. Just because.
Yep. Phillies, Mets, or Yankees.
Yep. Money, money, money. But if you're the Angels, to me, you take on as much as you can, get more prospects, essentially, for that contract capital. We'll call it the Cohen, Steve Cohen.
Yep.
I mean, what a move. What a move. And, it's worked out. Well, we'll see if it works out. I don't know.
Could he trade Pete Alonso?
Dude, I don't know. Gosh, I would feel bad for Mets fans, and I don't know. Another topic. Let's move on. We're going to talk about this later.
We'll hit that in the offseason.
That's off-season episode stuff. The big polar bear. I'd love to see him playing ping pong with the left field wall at Fenway. That would be awesome. Hey, who we haven't talked about since last episode, Will?
Alek Manoah.
Alek Manoah shut down for the year because he did not want to go to AAA after they demoted him. We talked about this. Did we not call this?
We did.
When they brought him back up after like 20 minutes down in AA, after getting shelled by the 18-year-olds who were on their lunch break in high school,
yep,
we said, don't bring him up too quick because you essentially have to ride with him. You cannot send him down because we thought something like this might happen. So the story goes, he gets demoted August 11th, just doesn't show up to the AAA team for over 2 weeks. They needed pitching. He was taking up a roster spot, so they put him on some kind of reserve list. I don't know. There's quite a few of those nowadays, guys. Apparently, his side of the story is he was going to get second and third opinions on his knee because I guess it's not feeling 100%, but everything structurally looks fine. So that's kind of good news. We were talking about a guy that 12 months ago was runner-up in Cy Young Award winner, and now you're looking at a guy who may have, I don't know, dude, you make decisions like that, you don't communicate with your team. You might be wearing somebody else's jersey next year, and it might be the Savannah Bananas. If you're the Blue Jays, what are you doing, Will?
This feels like a situation that started out as kind of sad. A guy that's just kind of lost his confidence, was on top of the world, so to speak, last year, and then this year you can't find it. Now it's starting to turn into ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the Blue Jays, all options are on the table right now. It's one thing to have a guy who's just struggling, having a bad year, going through stuff, whatever you want to say. But it's a whole different deal when you've got a guy who's struggling, but now he's just gone off the radar, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yep.
communicating, not doing the things he's supposed to do as a professional. Yeah, I think all options are on the table, man, and it's like I said, it's some sort of a combination of sad and ugly.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get to the point where I don't really feel sorry for the guy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on him now. Like, are you going to look yourself in the mirror and be like, look, I'm better than this. I'm going to come back. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to be back. Or are you just going to run away, take your ball, and go home, so to speak? I feel like this is kind of where we're going.
Yep.
And if I'm the Blue Jays, though, man, I don't know, man.
I mean, you got to think thin ice, right? I mean, this is a team that is playing for they're in the wild card hunt, and not
Correct.
playing exceptionally well at the moment.
And their window is open right now.
Correct. Yes. And this is a guy. I mean, I feel like we had a similar situation last year with Barrios. Like, if they could just get everybody to click for that team, like he just had like a mystery, terrible year. Now we have Manoah going through the same thing. I thought maybe pitch clock could be an issue, but I don't know. At some point, it can't be a crutch anymore. You have to learn to adjust because they're not changing the rules back. They're just it's done and dusted on that front. I don't know. I'll always go back on this. And I mean, now, okay, I'll raise my hand. I would drop him. I was like the last person. Yeah. But I always go back. They were like fiddling with the slider and his breaking stuff, and it was just nasty last year. I don't know why you do that. I think if you don't fix it, it's not broke. Now it's broken. We got to fix it, Will.
It's definitely broke.
He's 25, man. I want to see this guy. It's fun when he's good. This guy had all the confidence in the world. He wasn't just, he was coming at the Yankees and everybody, and very outspoken.
Yeah.
And I hope, I don't know, dude. I want to see him be great again because I think baseball needs personalities like him.
I agree, but it's going to take a while if it happens. It's going to take a while.
Yep. Okay, so we have Manoah done for the year. We got a couple more really solid pitchers going out. Well, maybe not Manoah this year, but Manoah last year was pretty solid. Will.
Yeah.
He's by the way, where do you think he's going in drafts next year?
Oh God, last round, somebody take a flyer.
I drafted him in my.
It won't be me.
It was. It was my last round pick in our NFL draft, and so we'll see how that pans out. Let's see, Scherzer. Okay, so I did this a little bit early in the week. So he left to start early once again, and it's come out that on Wednesday afternoon it broke that he will not pitch again in the regular season. It's very unlikely he'll pitch in the playoffs due to a muscle strain in his pitching arm. Apparently they're saying he won't need, I think it's a tricep, Will. They're saying he won't need surgery. But it's like the same old song and dance, back to back to back years with this guy. He cannot finish the season and help the team in the playoffs. He runs out of gas in the playoffs, and now we haven't even made it to October. And again, talk about a team still fighting for it in the Texas Rangers. If the season ends like this, he's 13-6, a 3.77 ERA, 1.12 WHIP, 174 Ks in 152 innings. So I mean, still doing it, but I don't know, dude. 39. Have we seen like the last of super dominant Scherzer?
I think we have, yes. I don't know. I feel like sometimes the saying gets thrown out there a lot, but man, it's so true. Father's time's undefeated.
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one too. I just think with Max, here's the thing. Like, think about all of the mileage that has been put on that right shoulder, arm, elbow over the years. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has had incredible longevity. He's actually been, throughout most of the prime of his career, he very rarely was hurt.
Yeah.
And so it's not like we've had like a couple of seasons kind of in the middle of his career to where he was out with like Tommy John or whatever it might have been. And so man, it's just catching up to him right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy's 39. He's pitched so many innings. He's a Hall of Famer, and by no means is this an indictment on Max Scherzer or his career. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Father Time is catching up to him, whether people want to say it or not.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think your question was very valid and fair. Like, I don't think we're going to see dominant Max Scherzer anymore. I think when he is reasonably healthy, he's a very good pitcher still.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very good starter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you have to see, this is where I think the Dodgers are so brilliant.
Here we go.
I think the Dodgers, what they do now with Clayton Kershaw, to where you'll see Clayton Kershaw in the middle of the year, his back will start barking or his shoulder will bark. And LA, instead of keeping him on the IL for a minimum of 10 days, they will stretch it out as long as they possibly can. Like, they'll stretch it out a month or so.
Yep.
And I swear they're doing it just to preserve Kershaw for when it really matters.
Yep.
And yeah, and Kershaw's had a ton of mileage just like Max Scherzer, even though he's a little bit younger, because he hasn't had that many major injuries. And so, again, I just think it's age, it's inevitable, and it stinks, especially if you're the Rangers, because, I mean, if you add him to that postseason rotation, man, it's pretty darn good. But I think this is we're getting near the end here. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think he's still got. So he's already opted into his $43 million for next year. So if you're Texas, that was going to be my next question. Like, how are you managing? You know, because you got to think. You have to think big picture here. I mean, you're going to get DeGrom back at some point late in the season, but you're going to get him back or middle of the season. So he's a wild card. But that rotation could look pretty nice, especially if Evaldi is healthy and doing his thing. I don't know, dude. I don't know how you go about handling it. I like what you said about Kershaw. I think that's an excellent point.
I think Texas has to somehow replicate sort of what the Dodgers do with Kershaw. Yeah. And I know Max Scherzer. I mean, I don't know Max Scherzer, but just based on what I've always observed, watching him pitch for the last 15 years, he would probably be the first one to be like, no, you're not doing that. But if you're an organization and you're the Rangers right now, you have to start figuring that out, especially going into next year. Because here's the thing, if the Rangers can just get in next year, if you've got DeGrom coming back, and then you've got a Scherzer that's healthy, even though he's 40 years old, Evaldi or whatever else it looks like next year, dude, you got a chance.
Dude, that's like video game lineup there. I'll tell you this. You're going to need more than 5 arms. 6 arms, 7 arms. You're going to need 10 of those puppies. So,
dude,
this
is still on the topic, but a little bit pivoting.
Here we go.
Dude, have you seen what Cole Reagans has done since they traded him in that Aroldis Chapman trade for the Royals?
I know. He's been lights out.
He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, I picked him up in a couple of leagues.
I'm like, Rangers, you let somebody go that you might not should have.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And I get psyched out because he's wearing a Kansas City uniform. So I'm like, is he really pitching well? But he looks gross. I mean, than see him in Toronto the other day throwing balls. I was like, is that Rick Ankill out there? Yeah. He missed pretty bad 3 times in a row. But I think it was the mound. Great segue there, Will. Also, another big name that went down. Yu Darvish shut down for San Diego. We'll just touch on this real quick, Will, because there's more stuff I want to talk about, buddy. 8-10 with a 4.56 ERA, a 1.3 WHIP, 141 Ks in 136 innings. This is a guy who, I mean, he is like a lock typically for like 180, 200 innings, but hasn't pitched since the beginning of August. Just a disappointing end to a disappointing season for San Diego. Is there any world where they bounce back? I mean, they got the talent. They've got the talent.
Man, I don't know. Darvish, he just didn't look right all year.
Never hit his stride. I agree
No,
with
he didn't look right. I don't know if maybe this was a lingering thing that maybe bothered him and just kind of maybe kept getting worse or something, but he just didn't look right all year. I'll leave it at that.
you. Yeah.
And San Diego's pretty much out of it, so obviously they're going to shut him down with this type of injury. And I mean, I'm just hoping he gets healthy because he is a great pitcher when he is on and healthy.
Yeah.
But man, I hate to say it, but man, that contract that San Diego gave him, that might be ugly.
Dude, I don't. What was it, like 5 for
I
100?
think it was like 6-year extension for, I forget the monetary value, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's already in his mid-30s, if I'm not mistaken, as far as age, and
Yeah,
he's
maybe a
another
touch
guy
higher.
that's got a ton of mileage on his arm because he pitched in Japan.
Exactly.
For a number of years before he came over to the majors. And so I think San Diego, when they signed him, was hoping that he would be really good for maybe the next 3 or 4 years and then kind of eat it on the back end. But if he's already showing this already, it don't look good.
Could be tough. He might have one of the more underrated careers, though. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time since he came over. All right. The main course of what's on the grill with Will. I'll set the scene a little bit, then I'm going to pitch it to you, and then you alley-oop it to me.
Yep.
I got thoughts. Chaim is out of time in Boston. On Thursday, the Red Sox announced they fired their chief baseball officer, Chaim Bloom, who's been with the team since 2019 after spending 15 years with your Tampa Bay Rays. What do you got on this, Will?
Here's my thing. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it. Just as a big time Boston Red Sox fan, but here's just kind of my 2 cents. I think there's a lot of blame to go around that whole front office and ownership. You cannot tell me that somebody would have traded away Mookie Betts if ownership had made the commitment, oh yeah, we're going to sign this guy. We're going to do whatever it takes to sign this guy. So I don't put the full blame of the whole Mookie Betts thing on the front office. I put that mostly on the ownership. Having said that, the way that the roster is constructed in Boston, I just don't understand it. I just like it's basically a little bit better version of the Cardinals, in my opinion. I think that the lineup is good enough, plenty good enough. But the pitching has been the issue year after year after year, it feels like, and I just feel like it doesn't get addressed. Yeah. And so,
what do you say about Corey Kluber, huh?
Yeah, right. It's
our opening day starter you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, that's just my biggest as a guy who is not an avid Red Sox fan like you are. That's just kind of what I've observed, and I don't understand why it hasn't really been rectified.
Yeah.
And this is my last thing before I kick it over to you. Who are the Red Sox? Because when I was I don't want to say growing up, but like in my teenage years and early 20s, the Red Sox were like, basically it was the Yankees Red Sox as kind of the two evil empires, so to speak. They would spend all the money that was necessary to have an insanely good team. And I just feel like we don't really know what the Red Sox are right now. Are they a big market team that is willing to spend money? Are they wanting to go more analytics, develop farm system? Because if they are, they're not doing a great job of it, in my opinion. And so I just want to see the Red Sox go all in one direction or another. Yeah. And please address the pitching. And that's kind of all I got. I just think there's a lot of blame to go around. Yeah. Chaim was the scapegoat.
Big time.
I think.
Time. Yep.
But I do think that the roster is very flawed. But I want to hear what your honest thoughts are.
Okay. All right. So we're going to touch on 19 real quick. He took over, and immediately everybody knew. I'm pretty sure it was common knowledge. I remember being pretty certain Mookie Betts is leaving because we couldn't afford to pay him the contract that he wanted. I think he got 350 over 12 years, and where we were with the competitive balance tax, we would have had to pay 50 cents on the dollar or maybe even 100% of his contract. So we basically have been doubling his contract. So everybody knew. Everybody knew Mookie's not staying in Boston. We gave the money to like David Price and JD Martinez, and yeah, of course, we won a World Series or two. And that's definitely not nothing. But it did leave us in this position where this guy's got to go. So he didn't have a lot of leverage to make that deal, and that's why you didn't see. Doogie's been all right. He hasn't been bad. Connor Wong is solid defensively, but the stick's not there yet. So we'll see. I mean, obviously the other guy, Jeter Downs, didn't pan out. Oh, man. So he's finished 3 complete seasons. In 2 of the 3, they were in dead last. Obviously, they had a pretty solid run in 2021. My biggest issue, though, is ownership, like you talked about. Over the 15 stretch, this is from Jeff Passan, by the way, guys. I got to give credit to this guy. 15-year stretch during which they won 4 World Series. Their payroll ranks were second, third, and first. Over the last 4 years, they've been under the competitive balance tax 3 times, and their payroll is 11th currently. And just what you said with who are the Red Sox? Dude, we've fallen out of the hunt of big-name free agents. You don't even hear our names anymore, and that used to be the deal. And this is not an ownership. The Fenway, I'm blanking on what. I think it might be called the Fenway Ownership Group. Yeah. They own a Premier League team. It's Liverpool. They own Liverpool, and they don't spend money over there either. But I know for a fact it brings in a lot of money. So, of course, we have to find a mixture of development and bringing in free agent guys, and then obviously coaching them up. All that stuff has to fall into place. That's how teams like the Dodgers and the Rays do it. That's why a guy like Ryan Brazier has an 8 ERA in Boston and goes over, and he's got a sub-1 ERA since he got signed by the Dodgers. Like, they've unlocked something with that guy. I will give credit to Chaim here. He can build a farm system. When he took over, this is kind of what Dombrowski does, who was the GM before him. He trades all the prospects, brings in all the free agents, i.e. a JD Martinez, and then you win the World Series, and then he's out. Our farm system was 30th. It is now, depending on where you look, it's top 5. MLB.com has them, I think, at number 3. So the farm system is in a good spot. But I think the bigger issue is ownership. What are they going to do different? And what's the contingency plan? The timing of this is the last thing I want to talk about, Will. David Stearns, he was signed by the Mets for Milwaukee. And apparently he was on the Red Sox short list to interview this offseason. So apparently this was going to happen. But the Mets got a hold of this guy before the Red Sox. That night is when Chaim Bloom got fired. So I think it's like they realized we have to make a move or, we have to start this process. We don't lose another guy. I'm curious to see what their contingency plan is. We know it's not going to be Theo Epstein. He's already said no. Yep. Because that's what everybody in Red Sox Nation wants. I don't know, dude. It's I don't like where the team is. He obviously had ups and downs, but you're right. The pitching is terrible. It's the pitch. The lineup is so good. Top 10 in average on base, OPS, and runs. He has brought in no good pitchers. That is the thing. Obviously, letting Xander walk sucks, and his hands were tied with Mookie. But he did lock down Devers. But he has brought in 0. Count them. 0 good starting pitchers.
No, I agree. And, part of the problem, too, we didn't make this point, but, look at the division.
Dude, it's a bear.
Like,
it is a bear.
You've got Baltimore, who is not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. Tampa always does what they do. They're not going anywhere. Toronto, we've talked about them. They've got that core at least going to be together for the next several years, at least. And Toronto has pitching too. So Toronto is, I mean, everybody's going to probably pick Toronto to win the division again next year, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So you've got those three teams that are not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Yankees who have had their absolute worst season in memory this year. That's probably, as much as we would love for it to happen as Rays and Red Sox fans, it's probably not going to happen again to this extent. And so all I'm saying is look at the division you're in. Like, I mean, the Red Sox are going to have to, if they are, and I watched the press conference the other day with the chairman and one of the owners, and he talked about, oh, we're the Red Sox. We're here to win championships. Our fans deserve it.
Yeah.
I get that. But you got to have a plan to beat those other four teams in your division. We're not even talking about teams like the Astros, the Rangers, the Mariners out west.
The Twins.
Right? You got to figure out how to climb over at least 2 or 3 in the East. And I just feel like the gap is significant.
Yeah.
And so this new GM, whoever it's going to be, man, good luck.
Dude, you just got to make something's got to change on the pitching front. I mean, dude, those World Series teams had names like, Prime Price, Chris Sale. Dude, in the good old days, like Kurt Schilling, Pedro Martinez. I mean, come on, dude.
Aaron Nola on line 1.
Get him.
Even though he's had a bad year, like I just feel like you got to at least bring in somebody with a little bit of cachet, in my opinion. Like somebody to get the team, get the fans excited about.
Yep.
And then hopefully, you mentioned this, and I think it's an excellent point. You have to start developing some of these guys. Like, Brian Bello, I think Bayo has shown some promise.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got to develop more of those guys. Like, you can't just sign 5 guys every offseason. You got to develop what you've got in your pipeline. And they just have not done that over the past several years, and it's catching up to them right now.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, it's a bummer to watch because their lineup is so solid.
Yeah.
For like 1 through 6. And then but you go to that rotation and you just don't feel like you have a chance to win. And so I don't know, dude. That's why teams that win every year, like the Braves and the Dodgers and the Astros, like it's so impressive to me because you have to have a complete team. But if you go back to 2017 or 2018 and look at those Dodgers rosters or look at those Braves rosters, you see different guys. So I don't know, dude. It's gonna be interesting. I feel kind of bad for Chaim Bloom. I feel like, he was heading in the right direction. They signed Yoshida. That was a big plus. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's enough Red Sox
Like
talk.
I said, he's the scapegoat. I think he's going to land on his feet.
Oh, for sure.
And man, the Red Sox, this will be a fun topic to follow in the offseason for sure.
Yep. Where's Chaim go? I mean,
back to the Rays?
Dude,
Not as the GM, but like in their front office.
Yeah. Go back home.
Yep.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he came to the Red Sox to sabotage. So we're going to make this really good. See you later, Xander. We don't want you here. He actually thought Yoshida was going to tank, but he's just like, dang it. I mean, woohoo.
That's funny.
Man, we'll see. Fan fiction. That's what we might be on to something, dude. All right. Being on to something is what we're moving on to. The Roman Handle Player of the Week. Pick to click player of the week. Well, I'm going to land it eventually, buddy. Week 23 results. We went the battle of the hot corner. And I don't know if you saw the spreadsheet when I updated. All right. You don't know. You don't know how big
I did see it. I had a feeling because I've got Devers on one of my fantasy teams.
Yeah.
And the Astros have not looked great this week. So I was like, man, this is just not my week.
2 for 18. That's a 111 average. 1 double, 1 home run. So he made those 2 count. Okay.
Right.
That's the way to do it. 2 RBIs, a 524 OPS, or
woof.
Let's see. Devers, Rafael Devers, 6 for 18, a 333 average, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, a 1.145 OPS.
I will take that.
Yeah, that's the way to go, dude. Hey, you know what? You didn't win in Roman Candle, but it helps your real fantasy team. That's probably better because I have Bregman on a couple, and it's just like, come on, do something. Do something.
Been rough.
It ain't. He only had a good week last week, so he's been kind of up and down this year. Dude, you went with your all-time my guy on for week 24. Tell me about him.
Man, as we wrap up the regular season, again, I went off the grid a little bit with Alex Bregman because I'm not a fan, but I don't know. I just kind of wanted to go that route last week for some reason.
Yeah.
But going back to where the heart is this week, going with a Tampa Bay Ray. They're trying to overtake Baltimore in the East, and this guy's kind of their catalyst now, kind of the heart and soul of that team right now, Yandy Diaz. What a great year he's had. He's been one of, you can make an argument he's been their best player, but man, what a great year he's put together.
Yeah.
Hits leadoff pretty much every day in that offense, and as they trying to make this last push to win the AL East again, I think Yandy has a big week coming up, so he's my guy.
I like it, dude. 20 home runs this year. I want to give him a little bit of shine. He always hovers around like 9 or 10.
Yep.
He looks like he should hit about 2,000 home runs a year. I don't know. You guys have seen this guy. He's got ginormous arms. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
I love that pick, dude. He is man. He's about as consistent as I don't know, the sun rising.
He's
right?
so good.
He's so good.
I tell you what, he's not a young pup anymore.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, just purely talking fantasy here, I think he's one of the big winners from 2023 going into 2024. I think he's going to be easily a mid-round draft pick, and he's never been in that range before.
Yeah. I mean, dude, listen, you put up these kind of 322 average.
Yeah.
20 home runs. I mean, it's
like a 900 OPS.
It's really, really good, sneaky help in the middle of a draft.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it, dude. I like it, and he'll be third base eligible, so pretty excited. I went with Ian Happ of the Cubs, just because I kind of like this guy's swing. Seems like a nice kid. Signed a big deal with the Cubs in the offseason. I want to say it was like 8 for 105 or something. It's something close to that. I said big deal, and then I forgot to type it in. But listen, the Cubs, they've slipped back a little bit, okay? They're 5.5 games back of the division. I want to see them make a push for it, make that last series. Remember, we're watching that last series with Milwaukee. We want it to mean something, and they're going to have to go a little bit for that to be the case. So I want to see Ian Happ do his thing. Anything on him? I know you had him on a team or two during the season.
Yeah, I like Ian Happ. I think he's he's honestly an underrated player, guy that a lot of people don't initially think about as being, one of the really great players of the game, but he's just a guy that just, as you said, seems to be a great clubhouse guy. All of his teammates really like him. Hits in the middle of pretty much every lineup that he's ever been in, switch hitter, hits for some power, and I'm with you. He's had a great last few weeks.
Yeah.
And, man, the Cubs have got to string some wins together, so I like that pick.
Well, guys, that's been episode 48. Let me tell you something, Will. We've had a great time, and man, this is a little bit different than what we've done all year. We were kind of talking about it heading into the episode, and how we basically just topicked it, just straight grilling. It was a good time. We know playoffs are like in the thick of it, so we wish you all the luck there. Any parting words to give the people before we head out?
Just go with your gut, man. If you're in the playoffs this week, fantasy-wise, go with your gut. Some moves are going to work out. Some moves are not. Don't overthink it, but go with your gut. And more often than not, you'll probably be in a good spot. But, again, it comes down to a lot of luck these past few weeks.
Yeah.
If you're a 4 seed going up against a 1 seed, you've got every bit of a shot you know, in a 1 week scenario and vice versa. So a lot of luck plays into it, but I would just say go with your gut on any moves you're thinking about. Stay on top of the standings as the week progresses. And, yeah, good luck to you. Have fun with it.
That's it. And, you know, what do you do if Joe Burrow only gives you 3 fantasy points, Will? I mean,
that's tough.
That's the wrong podcast. That's a football one. Hey, we really appreciate you guys. Reach out to us on Twitter at BTH_Cody and at Will Sism. And then check us out on YouTube. If you made it to the podcast, there'll be a link in the fancy description. Click on that, and you can see what my hair looks like. I went no hat today because Claire asked me to. And so that's what I said, let's roll. So, yeah, we appreciate you guys as always. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 48 of Bringing the Heat.